Hello Math 1 Focus students, this is our fourth video for the week, and now we're going to get back into Unit 6 on percents. Okay, so I just wanted to, we did some review on proportions. Proportions when a fraction equals a fraction, and we should be hopefully rock stars at solving proportions. And so percents, I'm going to flip this around. We're just going to think of them this way. Percent is part over total equals percent over 100. Or is over of equals percent over 100. And we're just going to use this. These are the two general ways of dealing with percent, okay? Just in general. But these are all going to be is and of questions. You're not going to see that many words. And so these will just be is and of. And so today's questions are all going to be find the part, which will be the is. And it'll make sense here in a second. So say I have this question. So I'm cutting my paper into tic-tac-toe with the space that's left here. We're going to do 9 problems on this video. So here, go ahead and copy that down. Or I guess you don't even have to copy down. What is 70% of 400? But I'd like you to just hit, copy that down. And then here, make your circle. And it's always going to be is over of for today. When you see this, just do is over of. And then here's my blank check for my proportion. And the easiest thing is the 100's always in the bottom right, so put 100 down here. The percent always goes over 100, so whatever the percent is, drop the percent sign, just stick that over 100. 70%. The 70 goes over the 100. So the only question is, the tough question is, where's the 400 go? Does it go on the top or bottom? Well, is it the is or the of? And the 400's by the of, and so it's going to go on the bottom. What is, do you see how that's by the is? So there's my x. And once you have this, now you're just going to do door number 1 or door number 2 or door number 3. And I really don't care which way you do it, but you're just going to make your circle, obey your circle, write your proportion, and here, this is just times 4. Times 4 times 4, isn't it? So doesn't x equal 280? So now I'm going to write my sentence. I'm going to plugging in my answer. So rather than saying what, I'm going to say 280. 280 is 70% of 400. And now I'm going to do my double check in my head. Remember last week we did the percent of. 100% of 400 is 400. What's 10% of 400? Wouldn't that be 40? So shouldn't 70% be times 7? Shouldn't that be 280? Aren't I right? And don't I know it? I can do my little smiley face. I double check. Right? That's a lousy 2 here. Right? Right. So number 2, copy it down. What is 8% of 600? And so if you know what to do, go ahead and do it. You're going to do it just like number 1 there. If you need one more example, or here, just try. You can do this. Make your circle. What goes in your circle? This is going to be is and of. Is over of. What's the first number you should write? Yep, 100's always in the bottom right. Second thing you should write is the percent. That always goes over 100. This is 8%. And so where's the 600 go? Is that by the of or by the is? It's by the of, so the 600 goes down here. And here's my x. Can you solve this proportion? You can always do crisscross, but man, shouldn't you try to do door number 1 first? And if you can't, then do door number 2. Last resort is crisscross. Sometimes crisscross is going to be the easiest way to go. Not this time. This is times 6 times 6. X equals 48. I'm going to write it out. 48 is 8% of 600. And now I'm going to do my double check in my head. 100% of 600 is 600. 10% of 600 is 60. 1% of 600 is 6. So shouldn't 8% be times 8? Wouldn't that be 48? Aren't I right? And don't I know it? I'm going to use that, percent, doing percent of questions in your head from last week for double checking. Number 3, copy and go. Okay, now you can do it. Hit pause, do it. I'm going to go. Here's my is over of. Here's my 100. The 30 goes over 100. The of is 7,000. Here's my x. This is a different order. 30% of 700 is what number? Still trying to find the is. How do you get from here to here? Well, that's times, if I cover 2 zeros, you can see that's times 70, isn't it? So this is times 70. X equals 21 with a couple zeros.
Philip was there, so I talked to him for a while.
Cool. So 30% of 7,000 is 2,100. And I'm just going to double check in my head. 100% of 7,000 is 7,000. 10% would be 700. So 30% would just be times 3. So I'm right. And I know I'm right. Number 4. Let's pick up our pace here. What is 300% of 40? So is over of. You need to hit pause and do this. I'm not going to wait. The of 4 goes here. This is just vertical weasel. This is times 3. So times 3. X equals 120. 120 is 300% of 40. Here's my double check. 100% of 40 is 40. 300% would be times 3. I'm right, and I know I'm right. Number 5. What is 150% of 60? So copy and go. Is over of. The 150 goes on top. The 60 goes on the bottom. Here, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to call 150 over 100. I'm just going to reduce that to slash a 0. Because now, if that's 15 over 10, I'm not going to bother rewriting it. Isn't that just times 6? So times 6, x equals 90. 90 is 150% of 60. 100% of 60 is 60. 50% of 60 would be 30. So shouldn't 60 plus 30, wouldn't that be, shouldn't 150% be 90? Aren't I right? And don't I know it? Doing my double check in my head. Number 6 here. What is 7% of 60? So copy and go, hit pause. Here's is over of. The percent always goes over 100. Here's my 60. Okay, now this time, I can't reduce, I can't weasel. I'm going to do crisscross. Do door number 3. 100x equals 420. Divide by 100. Divide by 100. X equals, you just move it over 2. That's 400 divided by 100 is 4. This is 4.2. 4.2 is 7% of 60. Well, here's my double check. 10% would be 6. So it shouldn't be less than 6. And shouldn't it be 6 times 7? Yep, so I'm right, and I know I'm right. Number 7. What is 0.5% of 80? Again, pause and go. I gotta hurry here. This is over of. I'm going to put a half up here. Here's my 80. And I'm just going to crisscross. 100x equals half of 80 is 40. And I'm going to divide both sides by 100. And that just reduces to 2/5. 2/5 is 0.5% of 80. Let's see. 10% would be 8. 1% would be 0.8. It's going to be, then 0.8 is, 4/5. And so this should be 2/5. Yep, I'm right. And I know I'm right. Number 10 here, or number 8. What is 400% of 8? Hit pause, go. Is over of. The 400 goes over the 100. This is just times 4. Times 4. X equals 32. 32 is 400% of 8. Here's my double check. 100% of 8 is 8. 400% would be 32. Yep, I'm right, and I know I'm right. Last one here. 90% of 80 is what number? Hit pause and go. Is over of. Percent always goes over 100. I'm going to slash and do door number 2 here. Reduce that to 9/10. Oh, well that's just times 8. So times 8. X equals 72. 90% of 80 is 72. 100% of 80 is 80. 10% of 80 would be 8. So 9 times 8 is 72. Yep, I'm right. And I know I'm right. So hopefully that went well for you.